Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific Northwest, from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
The Mariners. That's all I got.
Welcome to Mariners Monday, and boy, are we optimistic about the start that's happening. The Toronto first game in Toronto just ended, but we will not be covering that as part of our weekly recap of the Mariners. So take that out of your brain because we won't talk about it except if we're touching on our picks to click. So, but before we dive into that, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that's a little bit Mr. Rogers, I'll put on my sweater vest and try to make everything all right, even though we're going to be a little pessimistic Pauls in this episode. But I'll give you a little optimistic Oliver at the end. If you're looking for a guy like that, you're looking for a guy like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on X at The Real Coach Red, on Instagram at The Real _Coach Red, TikTok at The Real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy who is just here so he won't get fined, he's ready to go on the warpath when we in the second half of the episode where we give you worst case scenario for this Mariners team. If you're looking for a guy like that, buckle up, buckaroos. It's Cain.
Yeah, I'm Kane. You can find me over on Twitter at Kane2406, on YouTube at Kane06, TikTok Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. False. Do it, freaking do it.
Well, the Mariners are currently sitting, excluding today's game, at a 40% win percentage.
So we're 14% off of 54%. So that's
We
probably
went,
just gonna be a
we've went further away.
That's true. Not in a good direction.
No.
So I mean,
First game against the Guardians, we kind of gave you a little bit of recap during the game when Canzone put a spicy 3-run meatball into the pen. And King, what was the score of that game?
It was 5-4.
5-4. It was a nail biter. Emerson Hancock gets his first career MLB win.
Looked really good too.
Looked really solid as all get out. I thought that it was going to lead to good things later in the week, but we'll get there before too long. But no, the big hit in that game was Canzone. Ty France still doing his thing. And Ty France, he was my pick to click last week, and he kept his hit streak alive and had a kid. So I think he probably had the best week out of all the Mariners, realistically. Yeah. Boom. Coach Red, 1 for 1 on picks to click, baby.
Yeah.
But the rest of that game, it was a little bit lackluster. They did enough to win.
Also, these damn giveaways that they're doing during the week, and they're giving us all the crappy giveaways on the weekend. Like J-Rod's bobblehead, Monday through Wednesday. Griffey's bobblehead, Monday through Wednesday.
I do like that they are kind of spread. I don't mind that they're spreading it out because it used to be like the first 25,000 fans for one day. So you're spreading the love a little bit, but you're going to have a lot of people that are just loading up on some memorabilia to then sell on the aftermarket.
I get
nice job. Nice job. Let's up that resale market for bobbleheads. Then you go game 2, score in that game.
5-2.
And I believe all 5 runs were given up by Luis Castillo.
Dude.
Luis has not looked sharp.
Ace my ass, dude. Like, he is not good this year. His stuff is not it. It's frustrating because when he got traded over, right, we were kind of on the fence about it. First start out, goes and battles Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
and
I,
wins.
I don't think anyone was on the fence about it. We thought that
I was with the
the
prospects.
prospect call was a little bit high, but the results you got in year one were fine. You could talk about this more. We're just talking about this game right now. Take a
He's just
breath.
been bad. Um, you
Ty France
know,
clocks in with another hit in this game.
you know, Ty France is about the only bright spot on this team right about now. You know, uh, just the bats aren't doing it in critical situations, right? They're not capitalizing on the hits that they get in the innings, and that's the big thing. We're leading the league in strikeouts, and they did strike out a lot in this game. Your two guys that you expect to be the best, JP and Julio, starting thing off, were 1 for 9
Yeah, that's
that
not gonna,
game.
that's not a recipe for success.
No, it's not. So in the starting pitching has not looked good. Luis did look terrible in that outing. Bullpen locked it down though, kept him at 5. So that's a really good thing. You can definitely see the struggles in this bullpen with no Matt Brash in it.
No Matt Brash, no Greg
Or
Santos.
Gregory Santos. You lose Cody Bolton
We'll get
and
there. We'll get there. Don't jump ahead. Let's
all
talk about
right.
the rousing game that was Wednesday. I
The
know
eight
how.
nothing
Oh yeah,
game.
so that 8-0 game, that was one where I thought that you were gonna see day game, George Kirby gonna come out and pitch gem, and George Kirby got hit around like a rag doll. And I think with him,
9 hits.
probably probably one of the worst matchups for Kirby is a heavy contact team, and the Guardians are that type of team because he
Yes.
plays in the zone so much that, and they're such high contact that he's like tailor made to pitch to them. Where
Mhm.
if in those type of instances going forward where he's getting hit around a little bit more, he's got to start playing outside of the zone, but he's just so locked into the zone that I think it was a struggle. But the offense was terrible. I was driving back home that day, so
Yeah,
luckily a good game to miss part of it. But Josh Rojas comes in and throws a scoreless inning in that game. What do
that's
you know,
right.
with Josh Rojas being a lockdown reliever?
It's stud all around. Great third baseman, stellar pitcher, and
He's hitting the balls. He's fielding. He fielded all 3 balls in the first inning of the game tonight, and he's even
made
hopping on the
actually
mound.
he actually made a great play at third in tonight's game. So, all right, let's jump
First
into
road trip
the.
starts.
Uh,
Go to Milwaukee.
that one was not fun. You were at a concert. I struggled through the entire game.
I struggled the
Um,
day after the concert. I had a few too adult sodas that night.
you look at the scorecard, right?
It
Eight
looked a lot
hits,
better than I heard that it felt.
right? The Mariners kind of climb back. You get the 3 runs in the 6th, and
Blanco go yard in that game, or was that Saturday?
um, no, maybe no, that was Saturday. That was Saturday. Both
Oh,
came
we'll
in.
get to Saturday
Yeah.
then.
No, they were just kind of hitting the ball all around. You know, it was good baseball for the most part when it got to the later parts of the game. That's one thing with this Mariners offense either. They're not really jumping out to a lead early.
No,
And it's been a lot of fighting back, or you do take the lead but instantly give it up, right? Or cut the deficit has been a lot of it too. But they, you know, bottom of the ninth, you bring out Andres Munoz and he walks 4 out of the 5 batters he sees and into the 30s on the pitch count. What are we doing?
not ideal.
What are we doing? Bring in Ryan Stanek at that point. Something. Because you're letting your closer go out there and blow the save on 4 walks in an inning. At 2, you yank him.
At least 3.
Like, bases loaded and he's not found the strike zone. Like, at all. I believe he threw 3 strikes that entire inning.
That's not ideal.
out of your closer. So no, it was not great getting walked off with our closer on the mound, walking the last batter in.
Well, at least I had a little bit better night. I got dapped up by Arizona Service, so that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. All right. Saturday's game
Saturday's
was a
game,
little bit more exciting.
Bryce Miller was in fuego in that game.
Nails.
He looked
They
great. You had the
they
Mariners pile a couple runs together where they were hitting in bunches a little bit.
jumped out to an early lead. They went up 3-0 in the third, and he cruised through 7 shutout.
Julio was putting as a lot of guys during that Brewer series were putting together better at bats. I felt like
Yes.
JP's at bats were a little bit better. Thought Julio looked good. Polanco goes yard in this game. Luis Urias goes deep in this game against his former team. You looked at Garver, I think, roped a double pretty deep into there. Rojas, no, we didn't play in this game. My bad. Sorry, I was getting my wires crossed. You had Samad Taylor with a little bit of play late in this game.
That bunt he laid down
I think that
to
was
start
Sunday.
the game. I'll have to look. I don't think he got in yesterday because they were facing a righty.
No, might have been. I don't know. Oh yeah, you're right. It was on.
Yeah, because he was the run in the in the third inning. He was the first one because he laid the bunt down, stole second, got to third, I think, on a pass ball, and then eased into home.
Yeah, that one game was a lot funner. And Munoz redeems himself on Saturday by coming out and just not allowing a base runner.
And also, what a day for Demo. Am I right? Drawing 2 walks in a base hit. Love to see that.
Love Demo.
That is great to see. But like I said, Bryce Miller shut the door for 7 innings. You know, Twitter was very frustrated after the game because they took Bryce Miller out. I get it. You know, protecting his arm. Dude was at high 70s, low 80s on his pitch count. You let him go.
I think that it's more so it's one more opportunity for the lineup to see him again, because when you get into those types of things, you're then sitting there getting to a little bit more of the heart of the lineup, and you're getting seen for the third, potentially the fourth time. And he's a young starter.
I get
And
it.
you got to protect him because
But it is tough because you bring in Austin Voth and he gives up 3 runs.
Not ideal.
No, you had to use 3 pitchers to get 3 outs.
Yeah, not awesome.
And then Andres Munoz kind of makes it interesting for a second, but gets the job done.
Yeah.
So kind of a redemption arc, but hard to really see after you in a very, very high leverage situation be thrust into another one the next day.
Yes, but I think it was a good bounce back for him.
Yeah.
Oh, and then comes Sunday. Josh Rojas stays hot in this game. Couple of base knocks. Polanco, I think, got a single early in this game. Julio looking good again in this game. You're seeing Mitch Haniger cool off a little bit as it's going along, which it's as to be expected, which I think will lend its way. I'm not sure if we were talking about it on the pod or just before, but that should open the door for Rayleigh to get a little bit more play time. Yeah. Dom Canzone hits an absolute nuke in the 9th inning, and you get your second Josh Rojas pitching appearance. He does give up a little ring ding dong.
Yeah, it's deep center to William Contreras.
Oh no, he actually that was not a home run, I don't think.
No, it was.
No,
because it was the at bat. That was the out at bat earlier where he hit the top of the mat, not the line.
Luke Rayleigh threw a missile in there to get him out at second.
Josh Rojas gave up the 2-run blast.
Yeah, William Contreras is pretty good at hitting a baseball against the Mariners. I'll say that.
I mean, he's really good in general.
Yeah, the Mariners chip back a little bit. Demo Rockets another double in that game. Rojas hits him in. You feel like things are getting going, and they just pile it on. And that's what you get with the team that's played together for the most part with the Brewers. You've had that same lineup. They've had good pitching. They've been forced really in the Central
prospects through the system too, and having them produce at a high rate.
And Emerson Hancock did not look good in this game. He
No.
was getting hit around pretty easily. You also Colin Snyder gets pieced up in the knee. He leaves the game and hits the IL. You've got Cody Bolton after this game goes on the IL as well, even though for medical reasons. That was legit. Wasn't like any. It's medical reasons.
Yeah.
Weird
Eh,
way to put it.
and the whole like I think they should have got Emerson out of there a lot sooner.
I think the problem is that you had the Gilbert start where he didn't get particularly deep. And yes, you had to use a few extra pitchers the night before. But
Right.
even with that, you had Sauce go 2 innings. You were going to have Snyder go longer, but he gets clipped in the knee. And
That
it's
ball
just
was
one of those things.
rocketed off the bat too. It
It
was
hasn't helped that Luis Castillo hasn't gotten deeper in games because, and then you had the game with Kirby getting hit around where he was out of the game early. So your
yeah.
bullpen is a little bit taxed, and it's with some guys because you're not trying to throw your high leverage guys in those situations to keep them fresh. But at some point, you just have to do it, and it's been a frustrating start because you looked at them coming out of the end of spring training where they had won quite a few of the last games. They started off slow and got a little hot. You had Polanco hot, Garver was hot, Julio was hot,
JP.
JP was coming around, Ty France had a good spring altogether. And it's just been a little bit lackluster since the start of the season. So it's one of those things where it's a long season, but we're sitting here after today's game, 11 games into the season. So it's like you still got 151 left to play. There's still a big chunk of change. And there's a thing of runs, but you also look at it too. We're right there with the Astros, who are going to be right in the thick of it. They're that this team is going to start gelling a little bit more offensively. The defense has been suspect. In the starting pitching has run into some bad luck as well, and some of that's due to the defense. But the offense just really needs to start clicking, and you've seen signs of that from the Brewer series. Today was a little bit rough. We'll dive into that more next week. But before we go into Doom and Gloom Fest, Kane, who is your Mariners pick to click for this upcoming week?
Uh Tyler France is going to be mine.
This is a 180 for me because you're a Ty
Yeah.
France hater like twice already on
I mean he's already off to a hot start with a 3-for-4 performance on the day. And the ball, the out he got, the dude just flicked his wrist at it and it flew very far into right field.
warning track.
Yeah. So I mean it was hit hard. That like it went fast. So good things we've been seeing recently. As you said, you're 1-0 in the picks to clicks. Hopefully, that makes me 1-1 next week. But yeah, Ty France just looked too good not to be my choice. Coach Red, who's yours?
I'm doubling down. I'm going Ty France again. I
Okay.
was on the roulette wheel. I picked black. And I said, let it ride. Just kidding. I'm not going to do that since you already picked Ty France. I'll pick someone else. Go ahead and give me JP Crawford. He goes yard tonight. The thing that I think has been hurting JP is the inconsistency in the strike zone from umpires because there have been a lot
It's
of
been
calls
bad.
where even in today's game, there's balls. JP's got a pretty good eye, right? And there have been quite a few balls that are an inch or two off the plate, an inch or two high that he's getting called a strike on. And it's frustrating to him because he does have the best eye on the team.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And
I
he
mean,
has,
didn't he lead the team in walks last year?
yeah, and he was one of the tops in baseball last year.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that's not getting intentionally walked. So he's really sitting there being keen to the strike zone. He's got good plate discipline. And I think that for this team, I've said it 1,000 times, this team will go as Julio goes. But with JP getting on base a little bit more this upcoming week is my hope because when JP's on, Julio just seems to move him over or knock him in a little bit more often, right?
Yeah.
And I think that will help catalyze the rest of this team because it's been so sporadic and you're
Mm-hmm.
getting these runs from guys that
Bottom of your lineup.
you weren't expecting them to be major contributors over the course of the last week. Your top producers were Dominic Canzone, Ty France when he was in the lineup, who's at the bottom of your lineup,
Mr.
Josh
Rice.
Rojas, a little bit of Polanco sprinkled in there.
Rice, though, he had
Yeah,
3 RBIs in the Brewers series because he had that double to the gap
and
Saturday
and the
night
homer
and the home run. So 3 RBIs from him.
and Demo
It's
and Demo's
your
playing hot.
bottom of so your 6 through 9 have been doing a lot of the damage,
Yeah,
and
you
your
need
one
those
through
top five.
five,
Need to do a little bit more.
yeah.
It helped a little bit today with JP going yard late, and then also Cal Raleigh going yard late in this game. You're gonna need to see more home runs. And I'm not gonna say that he's already sitting at 2. They were saying he hit 19 last year. I don't think JP's gonna be a 25 home run guy, but I need that on base percentage and that average to start creeping up to about 275 with the OBP of 300, maybe 333, and I'll be feeling a lot better about this team's outlook. And I think that
Yeah.
he's the catalyst. And I think that if he can get a couple of games with good strike zones, that will help him immensely
Well,
in this coming week.
in two things before we jump into the next part. It Polanco's average is bad, but it's not as bad as it looks, right? And JP's is also not as bad as it looks because both of them have been getting hard contact, right? And the worst thing about it all is it's hit right to somebody.
Or with Polanco, a lot of it's like, oh, Polanco just hammered a ball. It's 2 feet foul from a home run, and then he strikes out. Like
Right.
he's slamming the ball, and then gets fooled on an off-speed pitch or gets rung up on a questionable call. So
He's
he's been
also
having some
hitting the
bad luck to
ball
start
like
the season.
he's also been hitting the ball right to people, and that's it's unfortunate, right? And the baseball gods are not blessing us yet.
Speaking of not blessing us, um, we're gonna go because there's a lot of doom and gloom. So we're gonna play into that a little bit
That's
here,
right.
and we're going to give you kind of worst case scenarios for each of us for the Mariners season. Kane's going to kick it off. I'll go second, and then I'll pepper in some optimism to, because that's what I always do. I like to be a level-headed fan as best as I can because,
Yeah.
like I said, it's a long season. There are times I turned off the Mariners yesterday.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch the Mariners on Wednesday because it was just ugly. So that'll happen. But you do what you do. Kane, what's your worst case scenario for
My
this?
worst case scenario is if the consistency of your number 1, 2, and 3 pitchers continues. Um, you have 3 guys that are very high impact performing arms on this team that have all been considered in the Cy Young conversation. And Luis Castillo is 0-3. Logan or George Kirby 1-1. Logan Gilbert 1-1.
Oh no.
Oh no, sorry. And you know your 4 and 5. Those are the ones that are just always up in the air because you really look at a pitching rotation. They're your top 3 guys, and if this continues, this team will not win a lot of games because the bats aren't alive, and this team has solely relied on its pitching to get it through the last handful of years. Um, and they're just not doing it. They're not getting deep. They're getting high pitch counts early in the game, which you know, Luis Castillo went 4 innings tonight,
5. He finished
5, and he was at just
100
shy of
pitches.
100.
I think he got to a hundo.
And then you have George Kirby in his last start getting to about 60 in the third.
And a ton of runs.
And Logan, you know, just again, it's the strike zone too, right? I can throw a little optimism on it as well. The
It's been
umpires have
inconsistent
not
across
been
the board, though.
generous. Like
It's
they
been
have not been
inconsistent
generous.
across the board.
And in the games, I feel like they have good strike zones where they're pretty consistent the entire game, where it's not too high, not too low type of deal. Like the Mariners perform well in those games, but when your pitcher is out there not getting the calls, so they're having to throw basically right down the middle to get a call. Not a lot of good things are happening, and I understand it's a long season, but through the first 7 starts for them so far, it's just looked really questionable.
Yeah, I mean, you've had good outings by Kirby and Gilbert in that stretch. Their first 2
Yeah,
were both solid. That's all you got for your worst case scenario. Bad first 3.
it's one of them, but
Just
I
keep
thought
going.
yeah, the inconsistent hitting. If that continues, it's just what do you do at this point, right? They went out and did what they could with the pieces that, with what management has let them do, right? You got Mitch Garver in the building, you got Luke Raley, you got Luis Ariz, you got Mitch Haniger back, Jorge Polanco, all of these guys that hit the ball, and nobody's doing it at all. This team leads the league in strikeouts, and yeah, like
We
and
don't. We
that's
traded away the strikeouts.
and that's with the Dodgers, the Padres, I believe, playing extra games on top of that. You traded away guys who are now all hitting about 300 or better on on the teams they went to or got traded to.
Mhm.
And you trade like I just don't know really what to do with this team. It's a team that has been very good at getting the base hits, and yes, they started to put the ball out of the park more in recent years, but with this team not being consistent at the plate and being every 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 games where they decide to actually show up and do things, it's worrisome, right? 11 games in, and we're like, where's the hits at? It's not great. All right, coach, you give a couple.
I'm gonna give you my whole rant.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
Um,
I'm just trying to
worst
keep this PG, man.
worst case scenario for the Mariners is they have the lowest fielding percentage in baseball.
Oh,
It's not
God.
pretty with the third base defense. Polanco's not smooth at second. JP's gonna try to overperform. Ty France is gonna be up and down. Cal Raleigh isn't really getting a lot of runners thrown out right now, and Zebi Zavala, oh
Was
boy,
0 for 3 the other
uh,
day.
yeah, Zebi Zavala hasn't thrown at a runner. I think he's given up 9 bags, like 6 to 9 bags. He's overthrown a couple balls in the outfield, and he's batting 0 at the plate. So if he's a defensive catcher who's not playing very good defense, and he can't hit, so love that for this team. And then when you look at your corner spots, Canzone can be pretty suspect in the outfield. Mitch Haniger at times, his metrics will be a lot lower than what we see, but he's looked a little shaky. Julio's let a ball or 2 bobble off of his glove.
One that went over for a home run.
One that went for a dinger. And then your third base situation with Rojas played a good game today at third base, but he's looked a little bit shaky. Rice is just a wild card.
Double
So
clutching on a throw to first.
on a routine throw to first. Yeah,
Yeah.
not great. So they finished the year with that. This is probably going to be my take that I don't mean it to be mean, but it's a little bit mean. This team at one point will have Ty France hitting in the 3 hole. And if Ty France is hitting in the 3 hole for the way that this team is constructed, that's not good.
No.
Because that means you've got multiple guys on the injured list, or they're hitting so bad that you're having to bump Ty France up there. Yes, Ty France has started off hot. Yes, he's putting the ball in play. But if he's got to hit at the 3 spot for more than a handful of games, that's bad news for this team. You could see
Yes.
the injury bugs already hit the starting rotation. It's hit the relievers. It aside from Mitch Garver 3-game back spasm, it hasn't hit the fielders just yet. But this team, we've said it all year, they're hanging on the razor's edge of health. And when you look at it, I think that worst case scenario, you're going to sit there and you see Luis Castillo get a little bit, but you're so far out of contention that you trade him for all the prospects to try and return that. Ty France is your best hitter, and you know that he's going into his contract year. You trade him for more prospects and just keep kicking the can down the road. It's not something that this team can continue to do. We've said this before that there are intriguing pieces in the minors, but they are not major league ready yet. This team needs to perform. The bullpen depth right now is a little scary as well. You're already funneling through guys that you've never really heard of. I haven't heard of a timeline on Brash and Santos. I think that they're at least a week or two out. Wu may or may not be getting back on the field sometime soon. You'd need him to take Emerson Hancock because Bryce Miller is going to give you a little bit more consistency. You'll probably see about two good starts to one lackluster start, where Emerson Hancock, for the age and the innings he's pitched in the minors so far since being drafted by the Mariners, it's a coin flip because he's been a guy that struggled with health. He's going to be a coin flip every single start. Some days his stuff will play, and other days he's going to get his tits lit.
That's also true. There's a lot of glaring holes on this team. And the injuries to Brash and Santos really have not been great. It puts a lot of struggle on the rest of the pen, which is not the best because Brash is your hype guy. Basically, when you put Matt Brash on the mound, he's hyping, especially at T-Mobile.
He's the guy. He's your pivot guy. He's your guy that you bring in to stop the bleeding.
Right. Or to just shut him down. But, and from what I've seen of Santos's film, the dude looks nasty, and it just would be a great addition to, let's give Munoz a little bit of competition for the closer role, because I just can't trust him, dude. I can't.
Yeah, the team has been frustrating. Do you want me to spend some optimism now before we go too dark down a rabbit hole?
I suppose you should.
Like I said, the team started to look better, putting together better at bats. You do have some guys, like you had said, you were excited about Samad Taylor coming out of spring training. He gets the call up when Ty France goes on the paternity list. A little bit of a spark plug in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Demo has. I have a bet right now with someone over under Demo batting 250 on the year. I hammered that over for $5, baby. Easy $5 in my pocket.
I mean, he's looked good in the games he's played.
Well, the main thing is he's healthy, and I think you're going to get to a point. It's not ideal, but I hope that you kind of get to a point where he's playing 5 days a week, or not five,
Right.
four-ish days a week at multiple positions, giving those guys the rest day. Because with him having a full spring training coming into this year healthy, I think you could see the difference in him. He's had the one really good year in the COVID shortened year, and he's shown you glimpses, but he's never been able to stay healthy. That's another big knock on Demo. But when he's in the lineup and when he's right, he does a lot of things. He has a speed element to the game. He can play multiple positions. Like you said, Luke Raley has been stung a little bit because Canzone is putting the ball out of the park for us. So I expect to see him get a little bit more play now that you've seen Mitch kind of cool down a little bit. I want Garver and Polanco to get started because they've been hitting the ball hard. They've had some bad luck balls, and they've been swinging at some stuff outside of the zone. As much as Mitch Garver did last year in the playoffs, the stat came on the board. Last year, he had 50 RBIs. It was the most he's had in a season.
Yeah.
That's not awesome for
No.
your 5-hitter right now.
No. And, Cal's going to turn it around too. He's another guy. Like, I expect him
the ball out of the park.
Expect him to have a bad batting average as long as he's putting 30 or more home runs in the stands.
And Julio's tweaking some stuff. He's hitting the ball very hard. He's putting better at bats together.
It's just not resulting in hits.
Exactly. It's been a lot of bad luck baseball. But here's the thing. I've said this on here before, and I'll say it again. Baseball is a game of failure and how you deal with that failure. If you're a very good hitter in today's MLB, you're batting 300. That means you failed 7 times out of 10. You failed. This is a tough game. You're hitting a round ball with a round bat. The pitchers are throwing it with so much velocity and so much spin. There's so many variables that go into the game of baseball. That's why it intrigues me and why I love it so much is because you can't just point to one thing and say, "Oh, this guy sucks. We're going to lose." Like if your starting quarterback gets injured, you could be in trouble. Guess what? When the Winker brawl happened and you had like the Winker suspended, JP suspended, and Julio suspended back to back to back, they won like 10 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not just on one person. And right now, it's a totality of inconsistent play in all phases starting pitching, bullpen. Some days when you're getting good starters, the bullpen's not there. Some days when your bats are getting hot, your defense is lacking. So they're going to piece it together and they just need to get that little run to get the feels back, if you will, right? You start off the season, the Mariners have been historically great on opening day. They lose that game, win the next two, lose the finale, start off the next series with a good win in that game. And then you saw inconsistent play. Then you get a great outing by Bryce Miller. And then you go to Emerson Hancock, who looked great in his first outing and looks terrible in this one. So things will pan out, but you don't want to get too far behind the 8 ball. The Mariners have been the kings of catch up and really getting hot once you get to the tail end of May into June, getting into July. Last year it was August, and they fizzled in September. The year before they were still pretty hot in September. So you've got to time out your runs. You don't want to blow your load too early, if you will. You don't want to be a premature ejaculator on the season, but you do need to get some things started early in the season. Like I
You
said,
see more
the Astros are
consistency.
struggling right off the get-go. You want to position yourself to be in the best spot as possible when you get into the dog days of summer.
Yeah. I don't think I have any more doom and gloom in me.
I don't either, but if you want to turn that stormy cloud into a sunshine, go give us a follow over on social media. You can find me, your boy, Coach Red, on X at The Real Coach Red, on Instagram at The Real _Coach Red, TikTok at The Real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. Kane, where you at?
You can find me over on Twitter at Kane2406, on YouTube at Kane06, TikTok Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follows. Do freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.